Hey guys, Mr. Mimikyu here, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing Giratina, Crobat, and Tapu Fini in the Halloween Cup Ultra League Edition. Here I led with Giratina, my opponent led with Sylveon. I had to get the heck out of here because I wasn't too sure if they were running Charm, but it turns out they were running Quick Attack for faster spamminess with the Moonblast slash Side Shock. Here they safe swap into a Scavalier, which doesn't make any sense though because we're taking resisted damage from the counters, and here I try to get to the surf, and of course they get to the drill run at the same time I got to the surf. I let it go. I can bring in Giratina. I feel a little bit more safer letting the drill run go, which I do. So basically, even though we may have lost switch advantage, I'm able to destroy the hard counter to basically whatever it is. They bring back in the Sylveon, and I can go for some Ancient Powers in hopes for a boost to my attack and defense, even though it's going to only be once. But of course, I didn't get the boost, which is what the heck? Why can't I get the boost? Here, their last Pokemon ends up becoming Chandelure. I throw in Crobat in hopes for a Shadow Ball, but it ends up becoming a Flame Charge, which really caught me off guard, and we all know how glassy Chandelure is. I throw in the Poison Fang, not like it really matters, but they know for a fact that this game is over, so they just concede the match. Next opponent having a Nidoqueen. Now, to be fair, I went on a 9-win streak with this team and went 13-2. I ended up climbing back up to the 2500s, and as of right now, I'm in the 2600s, which is quite shocking to see. Honestly, I wouldn't expect that I would get this good, though. But anyways, I end up letting the Earth Power go. I go for another Dragon Claw on the CMP to the Earth Power, but it didn't work out in their favor. They bring in Tentacruel. We could just go for a Shadow Ball to do some massive damage and basically put it down near the yellow, which we do. And I decided to shield last second in case it was a Scald, which it is, so thank goodness for the shield. And I decided to go for Poison Fang because, I don't think I'm going to be reaching the Shadow Ball, and they let it go, which is fine by me. They're going to wait out their clock. They bring back in the Nidoqueen, and since we know it's just an Earth Power, we can tank that since we're a flying type. They have Skunk Tank in the back. We can just go for a Poison Fang to lower their defense. We can bring back in the Giratina. We can shield up the Crunch, and hopefully we can take down the Skunk Tank with ease. We can just build up to 2 Dragon Claws and throw them back to back. One to get the shield, the other to KO, which is exactly what we're going to be doing here. And of course, that is a good game to my opponent. All they have left is the Nidoqueen. We can just farm down for the KO. Next opponent having a Giratina. Now, basically what I usually do in the Giratina mirror is that I want to soft lead the match, since with Giratina, you're most likely expected to see it run Dragon Breath as opposed to Shadow Claw because of the amount of dark types that are available in the Halloween Cup, like Umbreon, Mandibuzz, Obstagoon, etc, etc. Basically Umbreon and Mandibuzz both need to be level 50 in order to compete. Here my opponent has a Jellicent. The only downside about not having a Shadow Sneak is that I can't do super effective damage against the Jellicent. Not like it would have really mattered, because with Shadow Sneak, I wouldn't be getting the boosts like how with Ancient Power, and it does the same amount of damage as Dragon Claw, so that's kind of unfortunate for me. I shield up the second Ice Beam, not thinking, oh, it might have been a Bubble Beam bait, but nope, they're running Ice Beam and Shadow Ball, it looks like. I bring in Tapu Fini, their last is Scavalier. We all know how to play this out, and I shield up. I know it seems chickadee to shield, but we're going to try and see if we can grab both shields while we can, since Crobat does resist the Mega Horn and counter, although it takes single resisted from Drill Run because of that part poison type despite the flying. And of course my opponent's going to be throwing in the Drill Run, do some big damage to me. Not before long that we can reach a surf, but we ended up clicking on Crobat, and I stupidly clicked on the Poison Fang. Oh my goodness. And they farm me down, and we can just farm down with Tapu Fini. Next opponent having a Giratina. Now we all know how it is. Ship shape and get yourself buckled in, and we all know how it goes. Since mine has a 15 attack, I'm able to win CMP. Although if my Giratina was like a traded IV, I probably wouldn't have win CMP because of that 15 attack IV that I have on mine, which is kind of lucky, but at the same time it feels silly to do so. Here they're going to let go of the Dragon Claw. That's perfectly fine with me. They bring in Togekiss, and I try to get to the Ancient Power, but they end up going into Obstagoon, which is like, hello, why the heck are you going into Obstagoon? Here they go for Obstruct, and just as long as they don't have Gunk Shot, I think I'm probably in the clear, because like if they have Gunk Shot, that's kind of scary though. Here I'm going to let this go, another Obstruct, to basically I'm at -2, they're at +2, like dang. Obstagoon's pretty tanky, and there's some people out there who have been using XL Candy on their Obstagoon, which I kind of get because, well, it can reach level 42.5. I bring in Crobat and they just concede the match. Next opponent having an Obstagoon. Now, thank goodness I don't have Shadow Claw, because if I did, then this would be a terrible matchup and I would have to get out of here right away, since like those Shadow Claws do absolutely nothing to Obstagoon. Here I throw in the Dragon Claw right before they throw in their second Night Slash, and hopes that they don't get the attack boost, and oh my goodness, it would suck if they did. And basically I go for another Dragon Claw right before they throw in another Night Slash and bring him down into the red. We can safely shield up here just because I want to preserve the health on Giratina. They go into their own, and theirs is running Shadow Claw, so it's kind of a different story. The thing is, like, I could go into Tapu Fini, but I decided, you know what, let's throw in 2 Dragon Claws to see if we can do some decent damage. We grabbed the first shield, we died, so we have to go into Tapu Fini since Crobat doesn't want to deal with it due to Ancient Power. But it turns out they're running Shadow Sneak, which is like, what the heck? Why are you running Shadow Sneak? That is pretty silly. I build up some energy with the water gun. We're going to let the next Shadow Sneak go. Like usually when you're running Giratina in the lead, they throw a Dragon Claw. I clicked on the Surf and they end up sack swapping an Obstagoon. Wow, that is just ridiculous. That's not fair. You can't do that. Oh my god, I was like kind of ticked off. And here they have his Nidoqueen. I'm going to throw in the Cirque to do some big damage while I can. We end up grabbing their last and final shield. I bring in Crobat, and basically this is pretty much a game over. And just as long as we can like preserve our health and stuff, we can like let everything go as long as it's not an Earth Power. Here I click on Shadow Ball and they sack swap again. Are you kidding me? Like, oh my god, that is ridiculous. But anyways, we can just basically shield up here just in case it's an Earth Power, but it turns out to be a Poison Fang, and we can just go for a Shadow Ball and secure the KO. And basically, like, if I throw in Poison Fang, it wouldn't have KO, but that's a good game well played. Moving on to the next match, we got a Bisharp lead. Now, we gotta get the heck out of here into Tapu Fini as opposed to Crobat, because going into Crobat would be a bad idea. Here they have a Crobat of their own, and I basically throw in Surf, and the only downside is that I don't have a second move on my Tapu Fini because I don't have enough candy to get a second charge move on the Tapu Fini, and even if I did, I would just end up using my rare candies on Registeel, since like I hope when Registeel comes back to raids, I can like hopefully have the chance to raid it or even get more from the Go Battle League. My opponent ended up getting up both of their shields, and I end up giving up switch advantage as a result. I shield last second and it ends up becoming a Shadow Ball. They combo play with Bisharp with a Dark Pulse and does some big damage. Like, oh my goodness, I think like Shadow Ball would be doing more damage even without same type attack bonus, but I had to shield up the Shadow Ball just to be safe, since like Dark Pulse, even with Stab, it doesn't do as much as Shadow Ball without Stab, so that's a good thing I shielded up the correct move. Here I bring in Crobat. I try to catch on the Tapu Fini. We're able to farm down. They bring in Crobat. We could just go into our own, farm them down. All they have left is a Dripblim, and basically we all know how to play this out. We can just go for a Shadow Ball and secure the KO on the Dripblim, and boom! One-shot the thing. Next opponent having a Giratina. Now, we all know how to play this out. Buckle in your seatbelts and let this become a fun ride, I tell ya. It's going to be a bumpy one indeed. And of course I throw in the Dragon Claw on the CMP to their Dragon Claw, so I know how to play this out, since like, you know, I'm better off losing the soft lead a bit, and they end up catching on the Tentacruel, which is like, oh my goodness, like that really caught me off guard, to be honest. And here I build up energy, save a Dragon Claw for later. I go into Crobat as opposed to Tapu Fini, since Tapu Fini didn't want to like see this thing. I shield last second, it was a Scald, which was good, but then we get the attack drop, which is like, oh my god, I was very annoyed about that. Very, very annoyed. And here I'm going to let this go, and it is another Scald, and this time they did not get the attack drop. I throw in the Poison Fang a little too early, but you know, it is what it is, and we were able to take them down. They have Giratina again. I go for a Poison Fang in hopes to do some decent damage against them, but we end up drawing out their last shield. Their last Pokemon is Drapion, and to be honest, I'm kind of scared though because they might have Sludge Bomb, although I'm expecting that Drapion could just have Aqua Tail and Crunch as opposed to Sludge Bomb and Crunch is what they usually run in the Great League, whereas in the Ultra they run Aqua Tail for those ground types that lurk around like Galarian Stunfisk, Swampert, which does neutral because of its water typing, etc, etc. And here we can just farm down with the Water Gun and go for a Surf on Giratina. I know it is overkill, but we just secured the KO, and that's a good game, well played. Next opponent having a Drapion. Now, to be honest, at least we have Dragon Breath, though, to do some neutral damage, since, like, that's what I'm mainly running, as opposed to Shadow Claw, since, like, you wouldn't want to run Giratina in the lead with Shadow Claw because of the amount of Dark types, as I had mentioned before, since, like, it is the meta of the Halloween Cup, Poison Bug, Ghost, Dark, Fairy, and the only problem is that with the Fairy types is that they're completely destroyed by Poison, and the problem with Poison types is that they're destroyed by Ghost. Well, Ghost is destroyed by Dark, so it's essentially a rock, paper, scissors cup, and here they have his Nidoqueen. A lot of lag going on, which is like, oh my gosh, what the heck happened? Here I decide to shield up the Poison Fang so I can do some big damage with Surf, which I'm able to get off and do some big damage to them in hopes to bring them down. But no, they end up giving up their second shield, which is like, oh my god. We both give up shields, so now I'm going to wait out my clock, possibly go into Giratina. I could have gone into Crobat, but I feel silly that I didn't, because like most of the time Nidoqueen carries Earth Power as opposed to Stone Edge, and I could just possibly farm down. They're probably just going to throw in a Poison Fang or maybe even another Earth Power, which they do. And I get a little nervous of them throwing in a Poison Fang because I didn't want them to like chip me. But they ended up throwing in a Drapion to sack swap it, so thank goodness I throw in that. I go for a Shadow Ball and a Chandelure. We could just farm down with the Nidoqueen, and that's a good game. Next opponent having a Genesect. Now, this is pretty problematic because like Genesect beats in my entire team. Does neutral to Tapu Fini, does super effective against Crobat because this is a chill drive. I end up shielding the Magnet Bomb, which was kind of stupid by my end, and I really didn't expect it was going to be that. And here I throw in the Ancient Power, and you know what? I'm going to call it this time, but it ends up becoming the Technoblast, and boom! Giratina almost gets one shot. I bring in Tapu Fini to try and do some decent damage with the Water Gun. They go for a Magnet Bomb. They're building up a lot of energy. I go for a Surf last second just so I can take down the Genesect, and that is fine by me. We can now see they have a Scavalier, so oh joy, 2 bugged steel types in the lead, so that's pretty nice. The only difference is that with a Scavalier you don't have as much bulk as like with Genesect, since Genesect is a mythical and you only get it through raids and GBL, so I guess that's probably why not a lot of people use it, since like, you know, like the chill drive is preferred because the amount of Pokemon that are in the Halloween Cup are weak to ice, like Giratina, Crobat, Nidoqueen, Honchkrow, Yveltal, those ones. Like, although there are some that resist it, like Alolan Ninetales, which takes 4 times super effective from Steel because of its typing. And basically, like, you know, like, fairy types seem like a good way to go, but sometimes it's not. And here my opponent has a Shadow Drapion, and we can let the Crunch go, and thank goodness they didn't get the defense drop. I throw in a Dragon Claw as opposed to Ancient Power. Like, I know for a fact that sometimes I wish I would be going for the Ancient Power so I could get the boost, but my chances of getting the boost aren't really that great. Like, oh my goodness, like, why can't I get the boost with Ancient Power? It makes no sense. Like, oh my god. I bring in Tapu Fini to catch the Crunch, is it? Yeah, Crunch, so that's good by me. They have Trevenant, and to be honest, I really wish I had Ice Beam, but it turns out I do not, so I let the C-Bomb go, and here I throw in the Surf, and to be honest, if I had Ice Beam, then this would have been a better play for me, but we end up doing not a lot of damage to Trevenant, but it's fine by me. We can go into Crobat, we can shield up just in case it is a Shadow Ball, but I know for a fact they're going to bait me, which they do, and I bring in Trevenant to try and catch a Shadow Ball, which they're able to throw, which is like, oh my god, I was very upset, and all I have left is a Crobat against 2 Pokemon with a shield disadvantage, and Here they try to catch the Shadow Ball, but it didn't work out for them. I throw in the Shadow Ball here. I could have just gone for a Poison Fang, but at the same time, like, oh my god, I don't know what would have happened. But either way, I wasn't going to win, and that ends the 9-win streak because they're going to throw in a Crunch, and that's a good game to my opponent. Well played to them. Moving on to the next match, we got a Alolan Muck in the lead. Just as long as they're not running Snarl, we can just stay in. They're running Poison Jab, so that's perfectly fine by me. It is doing resisted damage. I do have to be wary of Dark Pulse though, since it is super effective because of that Ghost type I am at. And basically I throw in the Ancient Power. I know I could have just thrown the Dragon Claw to do the same amount of damage with the same type attack bonus, and I throw in the Dragon Claw. Here I'm going to shield up the Dark Pulse just so I can preserve lead. They have their own Giratina and I'm unable to get to my Dragon Claw, so now I have to go into Tapu Fini. This is one of the biggest downsides when not having Moonblast, is that you can't pressure super effective damage against them, so that kind of blows for me though, because like with Moonblast this would have been an easier matchup for me and I probably would have done some big excessive damage to the Giratina, but since I'm running just Surf, it's probably problematic for me, since like, oh my goodness, this is just not good. And honestly, like, how the heck am I going to break out of this? And they've thrown another Ancient Power and they end up going into a Alolan Muck, and this is very scary for me because like I only have one, but they ended up conceding the match. And next opponent having a Giratina of their own. Cool shiny, by the way. As I had said before, we all know how to play this out. We throw on CMP for the Dragon Claw to do some big damage to them, and which it was a CMP tie. And basically I'm going to let the Dragon Claw go, trusting Giratina to do some big damage against theirs. They end up catching into a Alolan Ninetales. We're going to like check to see what fast move they are running. Turns out they're running Powder Snow, so now I can just easily go into Tapu Fini as opposed to Crobat though, because if it was Charm, then I would have to go into Crobat, since like Crobat takes resisted, whereas Tapu Fini takes neutral to Charm. I shield last second, it was a Dazzling Gleam, and basically I could just farm down. This is just a Surf, so I don't have to shield anything here and let this go. Does not even any damage, so thank goodness I shielded the correct move. They have a Scavalier in the back. I can just throw in the Surf and do some decent damage to them. We end up drawing out their first shield. I throw in the second Surf and get the second shield, and they're going to throw in the Drill Run. I can let Tapu Fini go and we can just go into Crobat, and I'm able to get off a third Surf. So oh my goodness, Tapu Fini is just tanky as heck, man. Oh my goodness, Tapu Fini is just so dang awesome. And here they throw in a Mega Horn, which is like, what the heck? Why the heck would you throw in the Mega Horn? That's just kind of silly. And here we could just shield up the Ancient Power, so thank goodness by my end, and they just concede the match. Next opponent having a Tapu Fini lead. Now, we got to get the heck out of here because, like, you know, like, we're doing like resisted damage. Well, they're doing resisted damage too. Mine is double because of their fairy type. Well, theirs is single resisted because of my dragon type. So I tried to catch the Moonblast, didn't work out in my favor, and now they're going to throw in the Moonblast. I'm going to call Surf, but it ends up becoming Moonblast. Please don't get the attack debuff, and it didn't get the attack debuff, so thank goodness for that. I throw in Surf, they shield, and now this is kind of scary because this is like, yeah, I kind of crapped out at this. Like, oh my goodness, this was just unbelievable. I don't know what the heck I was thinking. Like, man, I can't even begin to put my finger on why I screwed up so bad with this match. I throw in the Surf last second in hopes to kill them, but nope, they end up shielding the Tapu Fini pretty early in the match, and I throw in the Dragon Claw in hopes to kill them, but no, they survive with 1 HP, which is like, you gotta be kidding me. That is just not fair. And we're able to secure the KO. But what sucks is that they have a Togekiss, and my switch clock, I don't know if it was or was not up, and even if it was, then it probably would have been problematic for me because whatever they have in the back wouldn't have helped me anyway, since like Togekiss is a core breaker to the Giratina and Tapu Fini, even though like Tapu Fini does resist the Flamethrower, even though I wouldn't expect like Togekiss carrying a Dazzling Gleam like Alolan Ninetales is. But anyways, we can't win the match, but that's okay. But that's a good game, well played, and I die from the counters. Moving on to the next match, we got a Giratina lead. Now, we all know about this. Like, how many Giratina leads have you faced when you ran Giratina in the Halloween Cup Ultra League Edition? Here they throw in the Drapion to catch my Dragon Claw, which is like, oh my goodness, I can't believe they did that though. I basically want to build up to the Dragon Claw and save that energy for later so I can threaten their Giratina, just so I can like do some meaningful damage against theirs. And I throw in the Dragon Claw last second. I try to catch the Crunch with Tapu Fini. I'm going to let this go just in case it is an Aqua Tail, and it is, which is like, dang, like, why are you running Aqua Tail? I mean, I guess it makes sense as I had stated before about the ground types, but still. Here they're going to bring in their Giratina. They're going to go for Ancient Power because that is the only thing they can do neutral aside from Shadow Sneak, which I don't think they would run that because like then you would be like not doing damage with the Dragon Claw. And since like both Shadow Sneak and Ancient Power both require 45 energy at most, and their last Pokemon ends up becoming a Scizor, I'm going to throw in the second Surf. We end up getting their first shield, and now it's just basically kind of scary though. And basically I'm going to shield up the Night Slash with Crobat. We farm down the Scizor. We can try and farm down, but we can't. And here they're going to throw in the Dragon Claw. I thought it was going to be Ancient Power, but it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to throw in the Poison Fang and almost KO'd them. And then we throw in the second. And honestly, I could have just thrown Shadow Ball. I feel silly that I didn't. Like, oh my goodness. Moving on to the last and final match, we got a Shadow Nidoqueen, and typically they ended up switching into Shadow Drapion, which is kind of ironic because like why would you go into Drapion? I mean, I guess it makes sense because like Drapion basically takes resisted damage from the ghost, but the thing is I'm not running any ghost type moves on Giratina Altered. I'm just running the standard recommended PV Poke moveset for the Halloween Cup Ultra League Edition. I let the Crunch go. I go for a Surf to try and see if I can throw some big damage onto the Drapion. We almost take them down, but a few Water Guns would be able to do the job just fine. They have a Giratina of their own. The only downside is that I don't have Moonblast. I had stated before, like, oh my gosh, I really wish I had Moonblast because like, I ain't doing crap to Giratina with Surf because it does absolutely nothing since, like, Giratina is so tanky on that defense and HP, with its HP being its highest stat. And here we can just let the Dragon Claw go. Basically, Crobat can just take down the Nidoqueen. It is all fun and games, and basically, like, it is what it is, and all they have left is a Nidoqueen. And we can just go for a Dragon Claw to draw out a shield. Since neither of us has used a shield, I can just go into Crobat. It's pretty much game over. They can't do anything about it. I'm going to let this go just in case it was an Earth Power, but it ends up becoming a Poison Fang. And to be honest, I'm going to shield just in case it is an Earth Power. I end up getting baited again, even though, like, oh my goodness, like, Nidoqueen's very good at, like, baiting. Like, it's 5 to a Poison Fang, 8 to an Earth Power. Like, I get that, but oh my goodness. And here I feel silly not throwing. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. And until next time, peace out.